Hi, this is Kristen Bouffard with UAF eLearning, and I am here with Jen Moss. This is the third of this semester's Teaching Tip Live series. Jen Moss is here to talk to us about augmented reality today, and specifically augmented reality in the classroom. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the screen to you, Jen.
Thanks, Kristen. I'm Jennifer Moss, and I'm an instructional designer at UAF eLearning, and I've been playing around with augmented reality for a while, and it's a super fun technology, and I think it's relevant for use in the classroom as well, as possibly you will see when we get finished talking about this. And if at any time you have questions or would like to make a comment, please do so in the chat area, and we will get to those as they come up. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So the title is Bring Your Class to Life with Augmented Reality. And let me get my buttons right here. It might be a good idea to first start with defining the technology of augmented reality, or otherwise known as AR. It's a live, direct or indirect view of a physical, real-world environment in which elements are augmented by computer-generated sensory input. And I think you'll see what that looks like more as we go along. AR is becoming pretty mainstream very rapidly, and it can be found on products that are marketed to young people, like Lego and the Guinness Book of World Records. And it's also being used in classrooms at all levels of education. And also, before we dive into designing AR learning experiences and talking about that, it may be helpful to go over some basic types of augmented reality that are currently in use and their related technologies. And for our purposes today, we will not be discussing delivery methods for AR other than for mobile devices, through mobile devices. But just know that these things are out there and they exist. Things like heads-up displays for car drivers, goggles for tourists, goggles for skiers, haptic devices for tactile sensations, and all kinds of other good, fun stuff. We're just going to focus on mobile device integration with AR today, because mobile devices are what instructors and students have the most easy access to. And integrating these devices into coursework is a way to kind of facilitate the real world and the contextual learning that can occur anywhere at any time beyond the classroom. One type of augmented reality is called target-based AR. Target-based typically relies on a target item that's been associated with a virtual item. When the mobile device is pointed at the target, additional information appears. And then you have the ability to interact with that information in some fashion. Targets can be 3D objects as well. So as you turn the object in real space, things can happen virtually through your device. Targets can be found all over the place, on catalogs and clothing, comic books and magazines, even the Alaska Humanities Forum magazine in Alaska. Also, QR codes are something that you'll see all over the place, and they've become fairly common. Another type of augmented reality is based on location-specific points of interest. So the idea here is, as you enter the vicinity of the latitude and longitude, relevant information and opportunities to interact with that information are provided to you, the viewer, through your mobile device. And since our smartphones and tablets are equipped with GPS, we have easy access to this type of augmented reality as well. The internet has allowed informal learning to flourish, and that process has really become part of our everyday lives. So traditional methods of knowledge delivery, such as lectures, are oftentimes not as compelling for our students because we're all becoming accustomed to these more serendipitous type learning experiences as we're out and about. Augmented reality is starting to actually play a role in the workforce, and engaging with AR technology in class will help your students develop that real world and lifelong skill base that may come in handy later as they're pursuing their career. AR works especially well where it is difficult to expose students to real-life environments, so like examining the 3D properties of chemical compounds, for example. It can also enhance the learner's ability to manipulate the environment or an object and develop spatial thinking skills that are important for disciplines such as engineering and medicine. AR can be an excellent conduit for conveying specific abstract concepts, and interactive visual simulations can sometimes better articulate complex themes that have no frame of reference in the user's minds. AR can help provide a very media-rich and animated reading experience to go beyond just the flat textbook. Excuse me. So when I was young, in pre-digital days, I did a lot of photography and hand developing and printing in an actual darkroom. And that process where you expose a blank piece of paper to light and an image magically appears on the paper where nothing was before is akin to the feeling that I have, and I think others have, when interacting with augmented reality. It's a very magical feeling. And neuroscience research has shown that that emotional reaction to things increases that learning experience, and it strengthens the memory and retention. So this type of thing might increase the learning experience and efficacy with your students if you are involving augmented reality. It might trigger a similar excitement that I felt in the darkroom, and maybe students will remember it years and years later as one of their favorite assignments, or maybe it'll stimulate their curiosity to dig deeper into the subject, which as an instructor myself, that's my end goal, really my biggest goal for teaching. So when we're thinking about planning out a lesson that involves augmented reality, there are some things to consider that look a lot like lesson planning in general. How will this activity fit into the lesson? Will it be based on instructor-driven and delivered content? Will the students be discovering the content, or will they have a hand in creating it? I think there's a tendency to get overly complex when conceptualizing AR interactions, and I think it's because maybe we've seen all that can be done with it in science fiction realms, or for more ordinary implementations, keeping that AR component simple and fairly straightforward will be a real plus. Goals for the activity should reflect your original outcomes and objectives. What do you want students to remember in 5 years? How will they demonstrate their understanding? Things like that. Again, most of us have mobile devices, so why not utilize them in class? Before you implement any new technology, it's important to get familiar with it yourself and to have others test it out for you and get some feedback from students after the activity so you can refine it later. Students could be given the option to use AR for research project presentations through creating an AR curated experience for other students. A peer review activity could then be applied. AR is also great for telling a behind-the-scenes story, which again could be used as a premise for an assessment activity. And some AR platforms also allow the creation of game elements like rewards and adaptive release level structures based on completed tasks. And this can be a very engaging activity for students and pretty exciting to do something different in the classroom. So basically, there are a lot of different options for dreaming up new things related to AR. It's still completely the Wild West out there, and it's a new technology and a new exciting space to be creative in, and there are new platforms and new directions developing all the time. It's pretty exciting. There's a number of creation tools available for AR right now, but many of them are unfortunately fairly expensive to use and publish in, even with an education license, or they are pretty complex for beginning users or students who aren't programmers. There are a few that are a bit better, though. Aurasma is one that has been around for a while, so you may have heard of it. It's specifically for target-based AR and is one of the few free ones available for educators and students. It's also really easy to use, and it keeps the technology cognitive load within reason for class projects. Aurasma on their website has lots of examples of targets that you can provide to your students if you're having them use it, just to give students an idea of what it is. And there's a couple different ways that you can have students create AR layers using Aurasma. You can use the mobile app on the phone to design very simple interactions. Or you can use the online Aurasma Studio Builder interface for more complex interactions. The basic idea is that you upload a target image and then add something on top called an overlay, which can be things like a web link, an image, a movie, audio, and so on. It's pretty simple for something that seems so magical. This is a project I helped a faculty member with for a biochemistry course on membranes. Using Aurasma, in this project, students used small sections of this poster, small snippets of the image of this poster to create targets that are then associated with augmented reality layers that illustrate the physiology of the membrane components. So the layers include all kinds of things: student-made videos, student animations, presentations, audio, scientific figures, maybe even some text. And all the students participated and collaborated on this project throughout the semester in order to create the final finished end product. And at the end of class, the poster is presented at a department presentation session for posters to other faculty and students, and is open to the general public as well. And anyone can look at those layers. Another platform that I've been using lately is called Eris. And it's a tool that can host geolocated games with various interactions, and it's completely free to develop in and use. The interface in Eris allows for creation of things like virtual quests and conversations, scenarios, student contribution through journaling, and reward-based elements. The place-based augmented reality game that we're currently working on is a branching scenario and scavenger hunt targeted game targeted towards first-year ESL students who are learning about the culture of Alaska and our university, and who need to practice English language in both peer-to-peer and unfamiliar situations. So the students using the game interact with people while getting to know the campus a bit by collecting information, solving puzzles, and navigating to new places through this kind of scavenger hunt environment. Using AR in your classroom activities does take thinking a little bit differently, and just because it's such a new technology, and I think it requires a bit of daring and a willingness to try something new and potentially fail at it. But according to this year's Horizon report for higher education, universities are investing in spaces where students feel comfortable rolling up their sleeves to make things. So spaces like digital storytelling labs, spaces for collaboration, and augmented reality studios. I truly believe that bringing the spirit of innovation and technology currency into the classroom is an important thing to do, to keep in mind, and to keep in mind as we create our lesson plans. It's just a very exciting new territory. And that's the basics of what I wanted to present today. This presentation is available at the location on this slide. And you can contact me via email anytime if you have questions after watching this.
Thanks, Jen. Just a reminder, if you are watching, you can ask your question through the Hangout on-air interface, and I'll forward that on to Jen. In the meantime, while we're waiting, Jen, I'm curious what your experience has been working with the ARIS tool. I've not worked with it, so I think it's easy. What level would you recommend somebody has as far as experience